Welcome back to the Act Two podcast, a podcast for the real-life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha Hugh.
And I am Josh Hallman.
And we have a guest today, so who cares about the boring intro stuff? Box, would you like to introduce yourself?
It's great to be here. Thank you guys for having me. It's David Boxerbaum. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk all things creative, exciting, writing, art, storytelling, you name it. I'm here to talk about it. So however I can either inspire or crush people's spirits, I'm here. I'm kidding. No
That's
crushing.
what we're here for. That's what we're
There'll
here
be no crushing involved. I promise you that.
Let me give a good intro. I was getting this ready. I was like,
Okay.
Box is coming on. We've been waiting to ask you to come on, and then I finally summoned the courage in an email, not in person. David Boxerbaum, a partner and literary agent at Verve. You also rep directors and showrunners.
I do. Yeah.
But to me, Tasha, he's not just an agent. He's an advocate. He's a relentless advocate for storytellers. He builds careers. He looks out for people. He has his hand on the pulse. He knows what the hell is going on. He's been involved with a lot of spec sales. So many I tried to look and I couldn't even figure out the number. And you've been involved with around 19 short story sales. Short story sales.
33, but you're off by a little bit. It's okay.
In the last couple months. Yeah, my bad.
But that's all right. 19 sounds pretty nice too, actually.
And we're going to dive into all that. But anyway, the point is you are, everyone knows who you are.
How out to my parents. Jeez. Sometimes they question who I am.
Send this podcast this amazing intro.
Yeah, there you go. Listen to the podcast. I'll know who I am exactly. I appreciate that. Thank you, Josh.
I met you years ago. You're the freaking best. I really feel like most people know about you. You're like this unicorn, and I'm happy you're here. So thank you for coming on. We have questions. We're covering a bunch of stuff. You're crushing people, and you're going to uplift people as well.
Thank you. And for your listeners, Tasha, I don't have the pleasure of reading your material yet, but Josh is a terrific storyteller in himself.
Oh, wow.
I still remember the day I read your spec years ago about the father-daughter. She was secretly in the CIA.
Yes.
And he didn't know, and they go on for one wild, crazy night trying to survive.
I loved that story.
It was a terrific script, and I still, to this day, something I still think should be bought by somebody.
Box. I was going to bury this. We wrote a spec together. So you might be reading Tasha's work at some point soon.
We should just do a live reading on this podcast
Yeah,
today.
that's what it is.
Go.
That's what this was, actually. Surprise!
Your audience will want to know what the outcome is. You're leaving them as a cliffhanger. We'll have to have a part 2, I guess,
Just to blitz you with all this. But all right, we can get into stuff that doesn't pertain to us. We have questions for you, I think.
Sure.
Yes. I mean, as you know, Box, from all the things that you've done, the biggest question on every writer's mind, especially as they're coming up, but even writers who, I mean, we're a podcast for professional writers as well who are doing the grind, is like, how the fuck do I work with an agent? If you have one, it's like, what do I do? And if you don't have one, it's how do I get one, right? So we're going to talk about that, but we're also going to get into specs and what your job is like. So I guess the first thing to talk about is, can you define for everybody what the difference is between having an agent and having a manager is, or is it the same? Why is it important to have an agent versus a manager?
I think in this day and age, as in today, it's a very blurred line. In the past, it was pretty black and white. An agent was the one that was out there kind of hustling, doing the deals, out there really kind of in the weeds, in the kind of like out in the field, trying to find the opportunities for the clients and bring them back, selling the material, lots of meetings, strategies, all that kind of stuff, right? Trying to figure out the scope of the career, where is it going to go? While the manager was really day-to-day kind of in there, really helping develop material, really helping to shape the projects into place before it was ready to show to the agent. Cut to today, I think that line is greatly blurred. I think a real agent who's someone that's worth their salt, really gets in there and helps develop, helps really put their signature and fingerprints all over material, really dives in from the kernel of the idea, gives notes, has their ideas, their thoughts. They really strategize and get in there and talk about a real clear roadmap of where their career is going, kind of, A to Z, where you are, where you want to get to. They're helping develop material, all of that, right? And managers kind of doing the same thing as well. But I think an agent has really, based on where the marketplace sits, and I think where agents should be doing today, I think an agent's job has taken on much more of the managerial approach. At least that's how I look at it, and what I've, tried to gravitate more towards. While I think managers are still, in theory, more day to day. They don't negotiate in theory and do all of that. But the agent's really job has kind of definitely blurred a little bit and gotten a little more gray when it comes to how much hands-on they are now with the client. From again, the kernel of the idea to the hopefully sale of it.
Oh, interesting. Then do you have to work with a manager a little more closely?
Yeah, the key to a great relationship with a manager, agent, and a client is that it's very symbiotic, right? Everybody's rowing in the same direction. Everybody's understanding the rhythms and the wants of the client, and it kind of seeps into what the agent and manager are doing on a daily basis, and they're in lockstep. Where a relationship starts to crack and doesn't work is if one has an agenda that the other doesn't. So it's incumbent upon an agent, let's just take myself here, to sit with a John, have a conversation as much ad nauseum to really make sure we're both on the same page about where we think a career is going to go, where Josh's career should be, where Josh's career should be headed or is not right now, the kind of things he should be writing, the kind of things he's not writing, giving him tough advice or giving him great advice, whatever it is, all the things that should be in lockstep on. You make this call, I'll do this call. You make this submission, I'll do that submission. Like there's just a lot of symbiotic relationship going on, and everything is for the greater good for the client, and we're all, like I said, rowing in the same direction. That's a perfect relationship. Clearly, it doesn't always exist. There's always going to be some tug and pull. But what you hope for as a client is that both your agent and manager are always seeing eye to eye on where the direction of your career is going. Most importantly, they understand what you want in your career. At the end of the day, you're the CEO of your career, CEO of your company, and we're here to help get you to that place within the company.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time, making sure writers do see themselves that way, encouraging them to meet with their reps for exactly what you're saying and having an opinion about where they want their career to go. Because oftentimes I think writers, especially when we're new, we look to you guys to tell us. We almost like look at you guys as our boss. And it's like you have to pivot writers to sort of take control themselves. But you were talking about your day to day. Can you talk about what your day in the life of an agent, your typical day actually look like? Tell writers what you do all day.
It varies. There's those obvious things that are very kind of similar in the sense of like, you get up, you have staff meetings, you have lunches, you have all those typical things, right? You have meetings about clients, you have meetings about internal stuff going on, management meetings, leadership meetings, all that kind of things. But then you're also, you're hustling. You have game plans for each client, where their careers are at, where you're trying to get it to, calls you have to make on their behalf, things you need to push on their behalf. They could be, writing a script, but they haven't signed their contract yet. So you're pushing their lawyer to get that signed. They could be in the middle of a screenplay and it went into the studio and you want to make sure the studio ready yet. So you're trying to check in with the studio, see if they've read the script. There's different aspects of calls and pushing you're always making. Most of it is pushing boulders up the hill, I like to say, right? Is trying to get to the end result, which is hopefully movies into production, TV shows into production, people working nonstop. But a lot of it is just pushing, making phone calls, following up on stuff. And then obviously it changes occasionally when you obviously take things out to the marketplace. So when you take things out, there's a real strategy that goes into that. So, okay, how are we taking this out? Who are we going to? Who we want to attach it to? Who do we want to read it? When do we want to go with it? There's certain different aspects of all of that too. And that varies differently for each client, where they're at in their career, what they wrote, what kind of, did they write a short story, spec, play, TV pilot, you name it, right? So, a novella, a book, whatever it may be. So you are changing the approach on everything you do differently. That's what's so fascinating, exciting, aggravating, and inspiring about this job, is that it can always change every day. And when I say aggravating, it gets aggravating because clearly you're facing a lot of no's, and your job is to turn a lot of no's into yeses. That's the joy of it. That's what you work for and live for, is that yes every day. Yes, we want to hire your client. Yes, we want to buy something. Yes, we want to go ahead and put it into production. You're looking for that yes every time. But most of the time, unfortunately, you're facing no's, because no is easier to say from a buyer's perspective, and yes is a much more of taking a chance. But the yeses are so much more gratifying when you get them.
Can I ask you, because you were saying, some clients write a novella or short story or, whatever the spec. Has anyone ever written something that it was like, here, can you try to sell this? And you're like, where the hell did this come from? It's like a 20-page, well, I guess that would be a short story. But has there been any weird piece of material that you've tried to take out and sell?
hopefully, Josh, at my point in my career now, clients that I work with know me so well. Many of my clients I've had for many years, and or if clients come to me now, they understand my reputation that you don't just drop something on my desk and expect me to take it out. It doesn't work that way. For me, it might work that way. For other people, God bless them. I wish everybody luck in the way I wish everybody success in what they do. I have no ill will towards anybody. And if they work in a way where they just throw it against the wall and see what happens, God bless. I'm much more hands-on and much more have to have known the kernel of the idea, understand it, because my mind's always a chessboard that's moving chess pieces around, right? So I'm always thinking about 10 steps ahead. When you've pitched me an idea, it may not be ready to see for 6 months, but I'm already in my head figuring out where that's going to be if it comes in the way it should and where it's going to go when it needs to. So the point to that is that you can't just drop it on my desk and say, "Now go sell this," right? I need to understand what it is. I need to have a game plan because you're entrusting me with your career. And the career is not just a career about your business. It could be your business. It could be taking care of your family. It could be all of that because the financials of it all, right? It could be everything. So I take that very seriously and it's important to me. So it's not just as willy-nilly as, "Hey, I wrote this in a vacuum. Here, go sell it, Boxerbaum." It's, I wrote this. We talked about it. This is finally ready. Let me show it to you. What are your thoughts? Okay, great. You have great thoughts, or the thoughts you think it's great as it is. They're great. Okay, let's figure out a game plan. Oh, the game plan's already figured out. Okay, great. Let's talk it through. You're involved in that because again, you're the CEO of your company. The game plan, and we hopefully execute, perfectly. So not all of it goes as smoothly as that at times, but that's the hopes and goals and dreams from the get-go when I know the idea from the kernel of it to when it's executed in the marketplace.
It's amazing to hear that because I think a lot of people, a lot of writers, and I think Tasha and I were probably like this earlier, where they're almost like intimidated to talk to you or intimidated to talk to their rep and intimidated to say, "I have this idea, I want to take this out." And you've always been very open. I don't know if everyone's like you, to just be totally honest. I think a lot of people have different experiences.
I mean, there's an element of how people were trained or raised or how they believe or perceive the agent should be or petition should be that's unfortunately ill-advised or trained poorly, right? This is a storyteller medium. This is an art form that we're doing here. This is what you guys are. What we're doing is the business side of it. But there's somewhat an art to what we do as well. But truly, what you're doing on your end, there's a true art to it. You're an artist, right? And no artist's work should just be thrown to the wolves and said, "Now let's go figure it out," right? There has to be a real understanding and methodical thought process on each thing. If you're going to take a time to actually put blood, sweat, and tears, and sometimes blood, sweat, and tears into something, right? You expect your agent to take it seriously as you did. Unfortunately, not a lot of agents think that way. It becomes a transactional business.
Let's talk about that for a second. What's the best way, in your opinion, for a writer to work with their agent? For those professional screenwriters that we have listening who are struggling with agents, kind of like what you're describing, they're struggling with getting their agent to call them back. They're struggling to make progress in their career, no matter how many scripts they write or meetings they create for themselves. It seems like they're never making any kind of partnership with their agent. So, in your opinion, what makes for a successful writer-agent relationship?
It might sound so cheesy, but it's purely trust. Trust in each other, trust in each other's taste. You have to trust that I don't have all the answers, but I have some of them, right? You have to trust that my taste may not be always perfect, but I've carved it out to get to a point where I know what works and doesn't work. I'm not always right, by no means. But I have a true understanding of the marketplace. That's my job to bring back to the artist, to the client, right? Is that I understand the marketplace very well. So it's trust, it's understanding, it's belief, and it's appreciation for each other and what each other do. And I think where it goes south a lot of times is the lack of trust and lack of belief in each other, and a lack of communication. And clearly, that's the number one thing that many clients and artists complain about with the representation is a lack of communication, a lack of understanding every day what an agent is doing for you. I haven't heard from my agent in a week or two. What are they doing for me? Understood, right? I tend to try to talk to clients as much as possible, and my lines are, communication are always open. Having said that, I'm not perfect either, right? But you have to trust that your agent is always working for you or trying to put the pieces together for you, move the chess pieces on the board to see you succeed. If you don't have that belief and trust, then clearly there is a divide in the relationship.
So to you, what makes for a successful client versus an unsuccessful client, speaking in those terms?
So a successful client is extremely communicative. Again, is overly communicative, which I love, right? Is really kind of keeping you abreast of everything they're working on, they're doing, they are checking in, they are understanding the ups and downs and the peaks and valleys of the business a little bit, right? They're doing their own kind of understanding of that. They are continuously writing. I think that's a major important point to make. What I mean by that is that if this is my craft as an agent, that's my craft that I've chosen, right? I'm continuously every day trying to work on my craft and trying to hone it and trying to be as best agent the best representative I can be as possible, right? I'm trying to always find something new I could always learn about, or try to figure out a way to smooth out certain areas that maybe aren't as rocky or a little rocky right now, whatever it may be, in my own presentation of clients, right? I'm always trying to be better. Same goes for artists. Let's just take writers here, for example, right? Writers always should be writing. So where a relationship doesn't work, to answer your question, Tasha, is when a client says, well, here's my spec, I wrote it, now go do something with it, and I've done my job. Well, great. Okay, but you're a writer. This is your full-time job. Like, continuously write. I remember going to a work event years and years and years ago at some space, and at the space there was a sign on the wall that said "Great writers write," and I was like, "Well, that's so simple, but but so obvious, right?" It's like, great writers just write, just write, just continue to hone your craft. And I think for me, the best relationships that I have with my clients are the ones who just put their head down and work and love the art of storytelling. And yes, of course, it's by ways of how they're going to pay their bills and whatever, but it truly is what they couldn't imagine doing anything else. This is what they love. And for that reason, they continue to hone their craft and work as much as possible.
So I want to pivot into specs. But before I do, I just want to throw you a compliment and say you do always have an open line of communication. I've bothered you with things you probably don't even know about or remember, and you've just responded back. But I might be bothering you a little more after that talk right there.
Never. I always say, and I mean, it's never a bother. But it truly is the life I've chosen, and that's okay. Like that's the job it is, and that's what I chose, and that's that's the least I can do for people that have given me the opportunity to represent them and go to war for them every day.
It's your cross to bear. This is who you are. Okay. Can we talk about the spec market right now?
Sure.
Your general thoughts on it, because a lot of people were down on it. Obviously, obviously the last couple of years have been tough, but kind of where we are right now, how important specs are for writers. I'll just leave it there. But yeah, those initial thoughts.
Sure. I think it's as wonderful as time and as fruitful a time as ever to sell the original material. I think you won't hear one negative word out of my mouth when it comes to the market currently today. Now, I will say the one thing is that it's definitely shrunk a bit, and that's okay. Things do change, things do shift, but the idea of actually selling original pieces of material is as wanted and as sought after as ever. And I've seen in quite some time, and I've been around for a few years, and the gray hairs will give it away, that there is an appetite right now for original material, whether it be in specs, whether it be in short stories, whether it be in novellas, whether it be in, IP, whatever it may be, original pieces of material, new ideas, fresh new material in the marketplace is extremely sought after. I have seen, for the first time in many years, usually the course of summertime is a very slow time where everybody's like, adios, see you after Labor Day. And I've seen a number of significant sales during the summer, which has been very, very, very surprising, exciting, uplifting. I've, knock on wood, I've been a part of a couple of them, right? And it's been really rewarding to see. So to answer your question, even when you have a new buyer like Skydance Paramount now, who's going to be spending a lot, I think, to fill up their library and their a slate, there is a large number of buyers out there who are really excited to find original material and buy original material, new projects daily. Most importantly, to the listeners, to anybody who's working on new material, it's a very, very exciting time.
Oh, that's amazing. And do you recommend that all writers, even if they're working or not working, should always be working on a spec?
I can't recommend it enough. Absolutely. Again, it goes much back to what I said previously, which is like you're always honing your craft, right? You're always getting better. I represent some very, very successful writers who, in the minds of some people, don't need to write original material. They're incoming call businesses, like to call them, right? They're getting the incoming calls to write, time and time again at studios on assignments, right? But they continuously still write new pieces of material because that's what gives them the most joy, is to be able to control that piece of an idea out of your mind the most. To me, is the most joyous thing about being a storyteller. I understand why it's great to get paid, high six figures, whatever it may be, to come in and rewrite a movie for somebody, because it's a great job. That's a great business to be in, right? Having said that, though, that's not for everybody. Even if it is, to me, if I think if you pull most screenwriters, they'll say the greatest joy comes from telling my own personal original stories, original ideas that come to mind. That's my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but I think that's what most would say.
Is there a commonality you see in successful specs versus specs that are not successful? Whether it's something you see in a writer or something you see in the writing or both?
So there's two common themes, and both may sound very generic and very on the nose, but go with me here. When you read a spec and you go, that's just a movie. It just feels like a movie when you read it. Like, it just, you literally can see every scene playing out as you read it. And you go, I completely understand why you could literally go film this tomorrow. It just feels like a movie, feels like it's in the zeitgeist right now. It feels like it's written for of the day to where we're current modern times. It just feels like a movie, right? And you know it when you read it, kind of thing. For everybody, it's different, but for me, you know it when you go, oh, this is just a movie. I get it. And I understand why people would either pay $16 to go see this in the theater, or whatever it is, matinee price, or they would, jump down on their couch or watch it on Netflix or Amazon or whatever it may be. I totally understand it. So that's the one. Two, what I appreciate the most is great dialogue and character. And when you read that in a spec, it could be rom-com, comedy, horror, thriller, action comedy, all those genres, right? But when the characters and dialogue just pop off the page, everything else becomes secondary. You're like, this person just gets it. They understand how to write great character and great dialogue. And you've seen a lot of specs sell where you go, it's not really a big idea, but God, the writing is so good. It makes sense, because good or bad, it's very hard, everybody knows, to write truly great characters and dialogue. It is one of the toughest things to do as a storyteller. I don't pretend to sit here today and tell you I could ever do it. God bless you both who, seemingly are doing it every day, but it is a very, very hard task to pull off, right? And when you stumble upon it and you find it in a spec, it's the chef's kiss, I like to say. And that's usually why they sell.
Can you talk about how a short story might be different from a pitch? And obviously, you've sold more than 30 of these in a short amount of time. We know Scott Glassgold. We actually had him on the podcast. He's amazing as well. And it was kind of like we were wrapping our heads around, like, holy shit, people are just selling these. And it seems like it happens so often now. But a couple writers in our lives, and everyone's like, well, how is this different than a pitch?
To an explanation, it almost is a written pitch, right? But there's much more deeper meaning than that. So first and foremost, I won't go too much into the origin of how this newfound white space has become the leading, if not taking over, the whole entire selling business, right? Which has really become the go-to. Specs are still prominent, but short stories have really become the forefront of the prominent selling now in the marketplace. By no means do we take full credit for that at this agency, because short stories have been around from, Story of My Life, all these people who've written, which would turn to Arrival, and, various other things that have been short stories for years, right? Having said that, 2.5 years ago, we stumbled upon this one on Reddit that was really terrific and was gone viral and was told in the first person POV, Scott Glassgold night. And we thought there was some great merit to what it was. A really creepy, intense story. about a couple that moves into a new house, and there's a set of rules there, and if you don't follow the rules, terrible things will happen to you, kind of thing. I'm giving you a very, very quick overview of what that was. And we took that story and we decided to test the market and see if we went out with this and said, hey, have you seen this? Did you hear about this? Do you want to discover this new viral thing that's out there? And the word discover being a very important word there to the buyer, right? I'm discovering something. I'm finding something when no one else is finding it. It speaks to the psychology of any of us, right? You've discovered something, you get very excited. So the discovery of something that had gone viral was very appealing to most that read that story. It's also a really good short story. That thing ended up having, I don't know, 18 offers on it, all different forms of talent and whatever, circling it, you name it. And Netflix ended up paying multi-millions of dollars for that short story for them to write it. We also held back novel rights and sold that as a big book as well afterwards. And we were like, wow, that's a really amazing thing we just pulled off, right? I wonder if this could be duplicated ever. Doubt it, but still, it was great. Not 2 weeks later, same place, same situation, another short story, much similar to that one. Different in the sense of like the story, but like much similar situation. We tried it again, same exact success, right? Another massive sale to the same place, Netflix as well. And then we said there may be something here. Cut to 33 now later, right? That have all been in a row and successful. We've sold every single one. It's been a real business. And what we quickly learned is, I'm just giving you the background on kind of how we built this thing for us here at Verve and for Scott. What we quickly realized was, as much as it's very exciting to kind of find them online, social media, in the internet, in the world of, internet, and you name it, we decided that if we can figure out a way to build kind of the proverbial story oven within the walls of Verve, we could somehow put these stories through and bake out what we felt were the qualities and the things that made these stories so good, right? All different genres, all different. Well, mostly started with horror first, horror and thriller. And as we built this, the success started to continue to come, and in big ways, where we were getting Steven Spielberg attached, we were getting Jessica Chastain, Sydney Sweeney, Sam Raimi. There was Michael B. Jordan. There was no actor director off limits when it came to these stories. And what you found in these stories as we built them, and I say built, people were writing them clearly, right? And the writers deserve all the credit. We were there just to help walk them along the process and kind of tell them what we felt were certain aspects of baking it that needed to be in the story. Certain things that along the way, I don't want to use the word tricks of the trade because they weren't tricks, just things that we felt the creative community would respond to, right? And notes that we'd give and dive in, how to deepen characters and all this stuff. And as we did that, we realized that the town and the talent was craving for these stories, was craving for these type of movies. And what made them so unique to the marketplace was they weren't just a blueprint for the movie. They were the movie, right? When you read some of these, you were literally swept into it. You saw the movie play out in front of you, much like you do in a spec. But sometimes even a spec, it felt like it was there, but you don't really feel as engaged sometimes, like you're living in that moment. In these short stories, you literally, because they're all told on our end, they're all told first person POV, right? And they're all told, so you feel like you are this character. You're in the moment. You're living through this experience. You're living through the horror, the romanticy, the comedy, the thriller, the action. You're going through this huge reveal. You're going through this huge set piece. And it just feels like you're involved, you're interactive in the process, right? And this kind of engagement and this kind of storytelling became really, really, really enticing to all the buyers, right? So there's a lot of magic that goes into these things, a lot of, back to blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of credit goes to Scott Glassgold as well. He's brilliant at the storytelling part of this as well. I feel very lucky to be able to work with him and call him, a friend and a partner and all of these, and a client, obviously, as well. And it's been quite the ride.
We got a few questions. This was kind of a prominent one, is how do you find new writers, if you are even looking for new writers? And are you taking on new writers? Are you actively looking for new clients?
Define new, like brand new out of the gate, or brand new, like a new client could be from another agency. It could be, someone that comes to me.
I believe it would be more out of the gate, not currently repped, maybe entering competitions, right out of college, maybe not right out of college, but someone who's just looking for representation.
So everybody has to start somewhere. And who am I to say that I would ever shut off myself from reading a new, exciting, brilliant voice that comes onto the scene? So I like to think that my eyes and ears and everything is to the grind, to the streets, and I'm hearing about and I'm seeing everything that's really exciting. By no means am I, because I have so much time in the day, and as you start to really ascend in the business and move up, you take on more responsibility and leadership and management and all that stuff, as well as your own client list that really hopefully ascends as well. So it's harder for me these days, but by no means am I not still trying to get my hands on the newest, greatest voices out there and reading material that people are excited about. So it can come from it could come from a film festival, it could come from a lawyer, it can come from a manager, it can come a friend of a friend, another client. I always like to say great material finds a way, and the great stuff rises to the top. It does. I know it sounds so easy and like almost impossible, but too easy, right? True, but not true, because every time I say that, people are like, oh, come on. Things have found their way to our desk in the most unconventional ways. So the only ones that won't succeed and won't find their way are the ones that stop and don't continue and actually give up, right? So I would say anybody who's listening here is, how will you find it? We find it because you continue to write. And if your material deserves and is as great as great as everybody believes it should be, it'll find its way to our desk.
Life finds a way.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. to quote a great Amblin movie.
Of course. Any parting words?
No, I just think, most importantly, this is a very, I said at the beginning, I wouldn't say anything negative. This is the time that people are questioning, is the movie industry at a place that is going to continue to put out product at a rate that it used to? Are people buying at a rate? Are people doing all the things that, studios are merging, people are getting laid off, all the things that we're all aware of and you can't turn a blind eye to. Having said that, it's still the world of art, and you couldn't ask for a better business to work in. We're all so lucky to be able to work in a business of entertainment. And to the storytellers that are listening to your podcast, you've already gotten in the battle. Now you got to win the war. And the only ones keep on going are the ones that succeed.
Beautiful.
Great final words. Yeah. I'll take us out with the quote of the day. If people are not laughing at your goals are too small. Azim Premji. Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at ActTwoWriters for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha at Story Thursday on Instagram, or Twitter at Tasha 3.0.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter. Josh Hallman on Instagram. Box. Is there anywhere you want people to follow you? Everyone listening probably already follows you there.
Yeah, they can find me. Type my name in. They'll find me somewhere.
As always, the Act Two podcast is a production of Act Two, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode is edited by Paul Lundquist.